Why aren't you dancing? It's the morning jam. Hey, look at that, everybody. In case you're wondering, you've tuned in, not to Dancing with the Stars, but to the Camera Life podcast. This is episode 51. Can you believe it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe it, Justin?
I'm very excited. We're cruising. We're going to be at 100 in no time.
No time at all. Those down south boys, we're coming for you.
Watch out. We're coming for
episode
you.
51. It is the 13th of February, 2025. I remember how slow January felt, and all of a sudden we're halfway through Feb.
And it's a short month too. It's over at the 28th, isn't it?
Is it a short one this year? It is.
Yeah,
it is a short month. But you are listening to the Camera Life podcast, coming at your earballs and eyeballs, live from, we're all in Victoria today, which is not uncommon, but we're coming to you live from Victoria. And just a reminder that the Camera Life podcast, a couple of things. All of our back catalogue is available on the YouTube. You can also listen to, given that we are sort of long form podcasts, you can also listen to us on all your favorite audio platforms. But we also have a Monday night show. We just had our first Monday night show a couple of nights ago to celebrate our 50th.
Yes,
episode.
Which is apparently that we got a few not, I wouldn't say negative comments, but we got a few comments. That's actually midnight Sunday for our US listeners. They were not as stoked of the time slot. They were, because we did a giveaway and they were like, we're asleep. So where's our giveaway?
Oh.
We'll sort something out.
We'll sort something out, don't you worry. We did say it was an experimental experience for us and for our viewers. But look, if this is the first time you're joining, or if you haven't bothered to do it yet, please make sure you like and subscribe. Tickle the bell icon, because that way you'll get notified, because sometimes we'll drop random shows. We dropped a random show last week with Charlie Blevins from Fujifilm Australia. But enough about that. Today we are joined by Victorian landscape and aerial landscape photographer, Mieke rhymes with sneaker, Boynton. How are you, oh great pink one?
Yeah, I'm pink.
Do you want to get that out of the way now? Let's get that out of the way.
I do. You want to hear the story?
Yeah, tell us the story.
Okay, not yesterday, the day before yesterday, Tuesday, I had the day off and I'd been watching the weather, and I decided to drive up to Falls Creek and to look at a cattleman's hut that I hadn't seen before called Roper Hut. And Google unreliably told me that there were two different ways I could get there before hitting the walking track. And the first entrance said private only. And the second entrance had a great big gate across it saying maintenance vehicles only. And I was like, well, that really sucks, because I'd already driven an hour and a half to get there. So I was like, well, maybe I'll find another path that I can enjoy. So I pulled off the next entrance that I hadn't been to, and there was a car park. And there was a little shack there, and I was like, oh, this is cool. There's a little stream there, and I jumped across and took photos of the shack, and then two people walked past and we sang out to each other, and I was like, I think this is the way to Kelly's and Fitzgerald Hut. So I was like, oh, well, it looks kind of like there's a valley over there. Maybe I'll just go have a look. So I put some sunscreen on at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I went to explore, but it was so good that I just kept exploring. And then I realized that I was an hour into a 2.5 hour walk. And I was like, well, I'm never going to do this again. Why don't I just do the whole walk? I walked 16 kilometers. I am in so much pain. I want new feet, new ankles, new knees, new hips, new back, and a new non-burned face. Thank you very much.
Wow.
The question is, was it worth it?
Not really.
Oh, no.
So it sort of was simply because, out of curiosity, I said to Matt, I was in a lot of pain yesterday because, the next day is terrible. And I'd been, sucking down the ibuprofens, but I was still in a lot of pain. And, he's such a sweetheart. He didn't tell me off for complaining, because it was totally my choice, totally my decision, my own fault. But I said, the truth is I would actually do it again. And the reason being, I've wanted to go and find that place for so long. And now I know. Now I never have to go back again. If someone asks for a photo of either of those two huts, I have a photo of both those huts. and that's it. I've got the photo.
You're gonna add a little effort tax onto the sale of those images, I imagine, just for the.
No. The satisfaction of the curiosity is the tax paid.
That's lovely. That's a really nice sentiment. The satisfaction of the curiosity.
What a great way to start the show off with a landscape photographer hearing a story that not every adventure is just like a perfect, easy stroll to capture the best photo you've ever seen in your life. And then you come back and you're like, got another one, easy, done.
No, and the worst part of that hike, so almost the whole way was actually a track, like a car maintenance track. So it was very flat, easy to walk. And then the last half hour, once you've already done, your 7Ks, was uphill. And I was literally counting steps to get there because it was so painful.
But you're so far in at that point, you got to go the rest of the way. You
can't turn around at that point. No. And I'm sure they're aware of that. And I'm sure anyone who's walked to those huts sympathizes with me because you think, okay, well, I can handle this. It might not be a short walk, but it's at least an easy walk. And then it's like, no, now it's going to get a bit harder.
So good.
It is.
Greg, before we find out a little bit more about who Mieke is and why everyone should listen to this podcast, because it's going to be amazing, I'll get a couple of comments.
You do.
Elena says, morning all. Morning, Elena.
Morning, Elena.
Morning, Philip Johnson. He says, greeting, Gents.
Hi, Philip.
Gents. And hi, Mieke. Yeah, he's a legend. We met him at BFOP.
Yeah, I missed meeting him at BFOP. I was very disappointed.
Hopefully you'll be there this year.
I will be there this year.
Editor Seb says, good morning, chaps.
Morning, Seb.
I can't even read this morning or talk. Hello, Mieke. And David Skinner says, morning all. This will be good.
Good morning, David. Thanks for
joining
David.
Us. So, Mieke, growing up as a kid, you grew up in Australia, didn't you?
You did it already.
Yeah, Mieke.
What did I say?
Mieke.
No, I didn't. I said Mieke rhymes with sneaker. Mieke, you grew up in Australia. You didn't get the slip, slop, slap lectures that the rest of us got in school.
Yeah. No, that was the thing. I put sunscreen on. I just wasn't going to go on a 16-kilometer hike when I left the car. So I didn't pack the sunscreen, which was the problem.
Yeah. I'm quite pale. I can't leave the house without a hat when I'm doing this sort of stuff. So, it's been drilled into me my whole life.
3/4 of the way through the walk, I determined to buy myself a hat this week.
Nice.
Good
well,
choice.
look,
nice big
get a shopping trip out of it. It's just sombrero.
No, that's the thing. I have one of them, but you can't walk around in that. So I need something that's a little bit like a terry toweling hat, that just squash in your bag and just get out when you need it.
Yeah, very good. And for those of you who didn't grow up in Australia during the 70s and 80s or just in the 90s, slip, slop, slap was a slip on a, what was it?
Slip on a shirt, slap on a sunscreen, and slap on a hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
now it's like 7 S's or something like that.
Yeah, they just complicated it.
They ruined it.
It's too much.
What was he called? Something Sam. Seagull Sam.
Yeah, I think now it's stay out of the sun, but also supplement with vitamin D tablets. There's
touch grass every now and then. That's one of them. Yeah. So, Mieke, let's hear from you. Tell us a little bit, just very quickly, who you are and what you do in the world of photography.
Yeah, so it's Mieke rhymes with sneaker, and I will explain the name. So my mum is Dutch, and Mieke is how the Dutchies say it, which is beautiful, Mieke. But so I was named after my grandma, and it's quite a common Dutch name. But in Australia, there's not very many Miekes. And so all my life, from when I was born, it's Mieke with an A, like that's how you say it.
Like sneaker.
But I get everything. So anyway, so that's the story. So my mum's Dutch, my dad Aussie, and technically I'm a Dutchie and an Aussie.
Yep.
But obviously I've lived here by almost my whole life, apart from living in America for 4 years. And yeah, what I do is landscape photography. Fortunately, it's actually my job, my full-time job, which is a rare privilege. And I know you've had Matt Palmer on the show before. He's now my husband.
Woo!
So Matt and I are both full-time landscape photographers, and we run a gallery called Alpine Gallery in the foothills of the mountains in Victoria. So it's in Bright, and we go exploring, as per 2 days ago, up at Falls Creek, Mount Hotham, and Mount Buffalo, which is my favorite mountain. And whenever we're not taking photos here, there, and everywhere, we're here in the gallery.
Nice. And Bright, for those of you listening along who haven't been to Bright or Victoria or Australia, especially if you're a flat earther, we don't exist. It's just a big soundstage. But Bright is nestled in the valley amongst 3 mountain ranges. It's a beautiful town. It's probably one of the prettiest towns in Victoria, I would say. And it's where the annual Bright Photography Festival is held. So lucky for you, you don't have to organise accommodation. Speaking of which, Justin, we need to get onto that.
Well, we need to find out if we're allowed to come back or not. Matt still hasn't given us the go-ahead.
They've gone a bit dark.
I don't know if he likes us anymore.
Stop replying to our messages. Matt, please tell us what's going on.
Can we come back
I'm
this
sure
year?
he's just busy. He's one of the busiest people I know.
It's crazy. He is crazy.
He is busy. But yeah, Bright is in regional Victoria, and it's where Justin and I went last year in October for the festival, which was our first time. But we will be back if we're allowed.
Yes,
obviously.
We will be back. I'll actually be back there next weekend for the Spartan race.
Oh, cool. Well, you'll have to pop in and say good day.
I will. If I can still walk, I'll definitely. Otherwise, I'll roll in. And
after 2 days ago, I completely understand. The less movement, the better. But yeah, for your international viewers or listeners, it's about 4.5 hours northeast of Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, beautiful destination. Great place. Amazing place to live.
Snows in winter and goes crazy autumn colours in autumn because there's a lot of planted deciduous trees. So almost all our native trees are evergreen. We only have 4 native deciduous trees. So our town is filled with non-native trees. But the cool thing is just at our back door is all these national parks, which of course are fully natural. So we get the best of both worlds. And
I found that a lot of the residents' properties were really well manicured and cared for. Not that that's important, but it does add to the beauty of a town, let's face it. And I do fondly remember arriving in Bright for BFOP and Justin and I grabbing a pie from, which one was it, Castlemaine Bakery?
No, we went to
Gumtree, that's it.
Yeah.
And we sat under those big evergreens and pondered what we were about to face at BFOP while we ate our pies.
My great-grandmother actually used to come to this area to paint. So it's been an area that's known about for its beauty for a long, long, long time.
Oh, that's a lovely segue. Mieke rhymes with sneaker. I have to keep saying that. I'm so sorry.
Otherwise,
I think when I spoke to you on the phone, was it earlier in the week or last week? I think I mispronounced your name at least 4 or 5 times, different ways. Every time was different because I was just trying to, and then in the end you corrected me, which is lovely. But I do want to
at all. I don't mind.
I'm so sorry. But your segue about your great grandmother, you said, used to paint in the area.
Yeah.
I do want to roll back a little bit and talk about some of your, I guess, your inspiration growing up and as a young adult, and what kind of led you into the world of photography, especially landscape photography. But if we can talk about your earliest inspirations.
Sure. Well, I can go all the way back to when I was a kid. We grew up in Popunka, which is just 5-10 k's that way.
Just out of frame.
Yeah, just up the road, 10 k's. You might have noticed as you came into town that there's a big, long avenue of big trees outside a winery called Feathertop.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that winery used to be called Boyntons of Bright, and my parents established that. They bought it as a paddock and they built a winery there.
Wow.
And so I grew up in a business, which I think is hugely influential to where all 3 of us first crop kids ended up. So my family has 2 crops. So I think what I loved was just walking up the bush at the back of the property. So in Australia, we call the forest the bush, and it was actually state forest, and you could go up. And, you know, when I was a kid, as long as you weren't really in any danger, like we were snake safe and we did wear sunscreen and stuff like that, your parents were too busy to really give a rat's what you were doing as long as you were not unsafe. So my brother and sister and I used to walk up the back of the property into the state forest, and there were tree ferns and bracken, and it was just like this magical wonderland. For people who don't know what they are, they're just like really green, ferny, rainforesty type bushes and trees. And there was a tiny little spring that was like a little waterfall. And so it was awesome to just go up there and be in nature. And, you know, I used to read books like The Famous Five and The Secret Seven, and, you know, I think I was an adventurer. Yep. So that's probably my earliest influence, in that right from the beginning, I loved nature. And I do think that's very relevant, because that is mainly why I photograph. But the photography bit came later. I loved art. I had great art teachers. You know, anyone who's listened to me knows I bang on about that. So I won't go too much into that, but art was my favorite subject. But I was never going to be an artist because I was too much of a perfectionist and it took me too long. But when I accepted a teaching position up in the Kimberley, after going to university in America and coming back and all the rest of it, that's when I fell in love with the landscape and just was blown away. I arrived in the wet season and was blown away by the colors and just had to photograph it, like was just compelled to photograph it to share with everyone. So that's where the photography came in. So that was when that was 2008. So that was quite a bit later.
Okay. 2008.
Yeah.
Cool. And when did you guys open Alpine Light? Sorry, I keep going to say Alpine Bright, which sounds a bit like one of the My Little Ponies. But Alpine Light. When did you guys open Alpine Light?
2021.
21.
Yeah. So just after COVID, at the end of COVID.
Yep.
Oof.
There's a whole story in that too, if you want to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we want to hear that now? Or do we
we can come back to it. Sure, Justin.
No, I don't mind. I'm happy to hear it now. I want to find out, because the gallery part of it is so interesting, because the like running a gallery these days is pretty rare. You know, like there's I don't even know how many successful photography galleries in Australia, like real galleries, not just selling a big collection of stuff, like ran by an artist photography galleries. Pretty rare. So it's pretty amazing that you guys have even made it more than 1 year is crazy.
Yeah. Especially post-COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely are not oblivious to that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool. And so the other interesting thing, we'll hear the story about the gallery, because the other interesting thing I'm hoping to find out about it all is like that gallery has to support 2 photographers as opposed to 1. So in my mind, that would make it even harder, but I'm not sure. I want to find out about that later. But
I also want to know, is there like a perfect wall in the gallery that gets the best light and you and Matt fight over hanging your works there? Is
position one?
Yeah,
like
position one.
Spot.
Toss a coin, or
Yeah, and you guys, you've like brought up about 6 different things. I'm not sure where to start now.
Let's go back to the origin stories of the gallery.
Okay, so the origin story. I don't know if Matt told this in his podcast, but you had him on quite a while ago. So I'll tell the story.
His old news.
Yeah.
No.
There's always 2 sides. There's 2 sides to every story. We want to hear your side.
Okay, so I had been up in the Kimberley for almost 10 years, and I was a full-time library manager and doing the photography on the side, which in reality meant I had my management position, and then in the afternoons and evenings, I would try and race out and do some photography. But more often than not, what I was doing was actually printing and packaging and getting ready for the Saturday markets, because I was up in Broome, and the Broome markets are very busy, and they're, very, you have to be very prepared with all your stuff if you want to do okay there. So that was my outlet. So essentially I was working 7 days a week from when I woke up to when I crashed in the evening. It was pretty hectic. And the last year that I was there was really challenging, and I did start to think, I don't think this is sustainable. And then what happened was, it was very serendipitous. Because I was working for TAFE, the state government decided that they wanted to offer some voluntary redundancies. And because librarians have a specialist aspect to it, I was on quite a good wicket up there, and they were quite keen to get rid of me. So they just, there was, I won't say too much, but I think a lot of people underestimate what libraries are. They don't realize that it's more than books. There's so much learning that happens. There's so much facilitation of information, providing of resources that are not books, ensuring that there's digital resources, how to access, it's really amazing what libraries do these days. But a lot of people are completely oblivious to that. And I feel like that factored in. But anyway, I had no intention of putting my hand up for a voluntary redundancy, simply because I felt the library was that important, and I had 2 staff to think about. And one of my staff members sat me down at a breakfast one day, and I thought we were just having a nice breakfast. And she said, right, the reason I brought you here is you have to put your hand up for that thing. She's like, you're a photographer. You're going to do photography. You're stupid to think that you can sit here and not get gotten rid of at some point in time. You need to take this opportunity to go with it. And I was just blown away. Like, firstly, that my staff would say that to me, that they cared about me enough to realize that I wasn't going to put my hand up because
it's very sweet.
Really, really thoughtful, but also the fact that they actually thought that it was worth giving a shot. So long story short, I did accept the voluntary redundancy. Well, I offered and it was accepted. And so I moved back to Northeast Victoria, to Bright, because Bright doesn't have a photography gallery, and it is the perfect place for a photography gallery because it's a destination and people come here for its beauty. And I feel like that really factors into the success or not success of a gallery. So I moved back here with the intention to open a gallery, and I joined the AIPP and the Australian Institute of Professional Photography, and Matt was a member of the AIPP as well, and we kind of brushed past each other a few times, but we never had a proper conversation. And then he was living in Tasmania, and he
Mieke, what year was it that you moved back to Bright?
I moved back to Bright in at the very end of 2017, so beginning of 2018.
Okay.
So Matt was living in Tas and was planning to move, and he was thinking of opening a gallery in Deloraine, but he also did his due diligence, as he says, and he looked at what was available on the mainland as well. And he thought Bright could be a spot, but he knew that I was there. So he gave me a call out of the blue, and gentleman that he is said to me, hey, how would you feel about another professional photographer living in the area? And I said, no, that's fine. No worries, as long as you don't open a gallery. Because, and the reason I was so blunt is because I knew my motivations for moving here. Bright's not big enough for 2 photography galleries. He had the kindness and the gentlemanliness to actually call me to ask, and I felt it would have been stupid of me not to be honest with him if he'd done that. And that was how I felt about it. So he was like, okay, all right, no worries.
Shit.
So fast forward into COVID. So I just started running workshops. I was 2 workshops down, and then COVID hit. So I had to cancel all the workshops that I had planned. And I moved them online, which was great because all through COVID, I was running workshops via Zoom. But also Matt was working at that stage, once he'd moved, he was working for the AIPP. And he ended up moderating a Zoom Q&A because they were, doing events to keep everyone connected. And I'd offered to do this Q&A, and I ended up doing 2 back-to-back. So it was like 2 1.5-hour talk fests from me with him moderating. And at the end of that, he thought, oh gosh, this poor girl, like she's going to go back to a very empty, quiet house because it's COVID, and she's just, poured her heart out for 3 hours. That's kind of sucky. So he sent me a text message and say, hey, not sure if you want to do any more talking, but if you want to debrief, because I had actually talked about some pretty serious stuff. He's like, we could meet back on Zoom with a drink. I was like, oh, that sounds great. I'll walk the dog. I'll meet you back on Zoom.
That's smooth.
We talked for 11 hours.
There you go.
11 hours.
One sitting.
One sitting.
How many drinks, can I ask? Because if you do the math.
But at 5:30 the next morning, we were both like, we should probably go to bed. And both of us woke up going, what just happened?
Wow.
That's insane. And neither of us, I might come across as conversational or whatever, but I'm actually definitely an introvert, and so is he. And so 11 hours was like exponentially more than what we'd ever talked with, especially during COVID. Anyway, the next conversation was 7 hours, and the next was 5 hours. So we knew that there was something going on. And so, a few days later, we decided we were a couple. And 1 month later, Matt came to Bright. He was planning to just come for a couple of weeks, but then the lockdowns happened and he couldn't get back home.
Oh, so what a shame.
He ended up living with me. So we didn't get to date. We just moved in together, having not had any experience with each other. It was pretty rocky in the beginning. I'll be perfectly honest. That is not the best way to begin a relationship.
It's not at all, but
particularly
it worked.
Well, it did. But if you've been independent a long time, so I hadn't been in a relationship for 15 years and was very happy with the way that I had my life. And similarly, he was very happy with the way his life was. So you're going to get a bit of friction there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm doing the long version. So
no, it's okay.
It's a long podcast. That's what the people are here for.
So anyway, he was here, and we, it wasn't too long down the track that we knew that this was pretty special and we wanted this to be a forever thing. So we were keeping an eye open for businesses that were available for lease. And of course, during COVID, a lot of businesses did change hands, a lot of leases, but what we were finding was the ones that we were like, if that comes up, we should definitely inquire about it. It was gone. Because of the local grapevine, we just didn't get that opportunity. And then this one came up. It was a travel agency, and Hello World Travel. So the doors were teal,
nice,
blue color and lilac. But anyway, long story short, we walked in. It had big open windows that had blinds on them, but big open windows facing the road. And we both went, this is actually really good. And so by the end of that day, we had said to them, we want, so this went up in the morning. By the afternoon, we were like, we want to lease this place. So it was like a 1-day snap decision. And then we had to sort everything out. And fortunately, because both of us wanted to open a gallery, we'd already had meetings I know that sounds strange, but we had already had a business meeting talking about what we wanted if we got a gallery and how we were going to operate it. And, Matt had already done some rudimentary budgeting. That's not me. That's definitely him. And so we already had everything in place when this place became available. So basically we had, I think, 2 months to get everything ready. And then we opened in December 2021.
Wow.
That was a very long answer to your story.
No, it's a beautiful story. It's really sweet. And it's, and it's really nice to hear of a business forming pretty much as, I mean, you both had that desire and that dream, but for COVID to almost accelerate that.
Yeah.
And the relationship.
And I was going to say, and a relationship.
Yeah.
And I've got follow-up questions. So we're going to drag the story out even longer. But before we do that, there's a couple of comments.
Let's jump to the comments.
Jim, host of the show.
Where are you? Where is he?
I gave him the morning off.
Oh,
I was like, we don't need you today. Because he's a Nikon shooter, and they would have been like talking about Nikons and stuff. I was like, no, we don't need that. We are gonna talk about your camera gear later. Jim says, beautiful story. Amanda Stewart says, what an amazing start to a relationship.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks for joining.
Yelena.
Fuji shooter. Amanda's a Fuji shooter.
Fuji shooter. I'll have to kick you off now, Greg. Otherwise you'll gang up on us. Yelena says, here, Mieke, name errors. Yelena gets a lot of different Yelanas and Yolandas and Jalapenos.
Yelena.
David says plenty of choices.
Thanks,
plenty of choices
David.
in Right to Buy a Hat. And Amanda again says she had a similarly disastrous hike at Phillip Island recently. So good company.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I know. We have. If you love landscape photography, you're going to have experiences like this.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it's as an Aussie, like sometimes you head out the door and you think, I'll be all right. And then you get home, a bit tight today.
Elaine and I,
glowing.
it wasn't a photography hike. I mean, it kind of was, but it was the middle of the day, so it wasn't. At Yosemite, we set out on a loop. Yeah, name dropping. Set out on a loop that was pretty doable for us. And we got to a point in the loop where you could extend it and do like this sort of epic rim loop. And we're like, we're feeling pretty good. Let's do it. And then, I don't know what it ended up being, but it was a massive, by the end of it, like the last bit was, what's worse than an uphill at the end of a hike?
I know.
Insanely steep downhill, like big steps and rocks. And like my knees felt like they had, I needed lubrication. They were rusting up on the way down. I was like,
and you're pretty fit.
Look, decent.
Well, Yelena is.
Yelena is. But she was pooped. We were both pooped. We ran out of water. I drank water out of one of the rivers at the top of Yosemite, and then because there's no service, and I'm like, it's a flowing stream. I mean, this has got to be great, right? I got down into service and Googled it, and it's like, never ever drink the water from the top because of there's all these parasites and stuff. I was like, so the next 2 weeks, I was waiting for I can't remember what it's called, Giardia or something like that. I was just waiting for all the symptoms to set in because it said it can take 10 days to show up in your system.
Oh no, you're just
every
waiting
day
for
I'm like, I think I feel it. I think I'm dying. And then I was fine. Anyway, so we've all got those stories.
Yeah.
Elena couldn't enjoy the last third of that hike in so much pain. It was 25 Ks, with a fair bit of validation. And no, not a lot of prep. We had some water, but not enough. You okay there, Greg?
Yeah, just choking on my own breath.
I did
quietly dying over there.
I had some follow-up questions on the gallery. I've forgotten most of them now, but one of them was, so up until this point, so you were fairly new in the relationship, but obviously it was accelerated because you threw straight into living together, basically. So it was a fairly new relationship, but probably pretty deep, pretty quick. But then you're opening this new business. Up until this point, your photography businesses and lives, like financially, I assume, had been completely separate. Like you're running your business, Matt's running his business, and then you're going to open this gallery. Yeah. Was the gallery going to be like, hey, we're still each running our own business, but we'll share the costs of this space? Or was it like, hey, we're starting a new business and we're partners in this financially, and it's going to be its own business?
Yeah, so right from the beginning, we set up a bank account that was a joint bank account specifically for Alpine Light.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. One of us had more funds than the other, so that went in for the capital.
Yeah.
No one's keeping score, clearly.
Well, I mean, I'd never done anything like that before, so it was a bit scary, to be perfectly honest.
Absolutely.
But I'd been saving for a long time specifically for this, and so that money went in and then was joint for both of us. That was no longer mine. Even before we got married, that was the business, and so everything, the rent, the flooring, the pulling out the lights and putting in new lighting, the hanging system, all of that came out of that bucket right from the beginning. So this was definitely considered a joint endeavor right from day dot.
Yeah. So and so, like, I don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty of it, but like, so then, you know, if you sell one of your images versus one of Matt's images, does that just not? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter at all.
Doesn't matter at all.
No.
It's just this is the Alpine Light Gallery.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I think it has to be like that, because the truth is, I'm so grateful. Our work looks good together.
It looks great together. I couldn't. When I walked in, I was like, "There's no way to know until you look at the." You know, obviously, you could probably learn your styles with a bit more exposure to the.
But it's not like you look at the work and go, "That's Matt, that's Mieke." Like, it just sits really comfortably together. Yeah. And I do feel like when people come into the gallery, as soon as they close that door, it's our little oasis. And I don't know if you felt that, but it just feels like time stops.
It's quieter.
You just have time to peacefully enjoy. And there's enough work that you can spend time here. Like, people have spent over an hour here before. So that's really nice. And that atmosphere is only there because we have co-created that space, and it's equally our work up on the walls. I do the curating now. We both did the curating in the beginning, but I love it so much. And I was like, please, can you let me do this? I really, really enjoy doing this.
Really? So everything that's on the walls and where it sits, that's your decision.
Okay. So the beginning setup in terms of how many prints and the layout, Matt and I did that together. So he did a lot of prep beforehand, because his background is design. So he really quickly mocked up.
I think I remember him saying that he
digitally
designed it.
Yep. And because we had to order prints, so we had to know how many prints would comfortably fit in the space, and the dimensions, and the how much space we wanted around the prints, because all of that really matters. We didn't want a cluttered gallery. We wanted a place that you can look at every single image when you come in and just spend time with it. So we didn't want it to be higgledy-piggledy. We didn't want it to look all over the shop. We wanted it to look very, gallery-like. So he did that design, but now we try to do themes over autumn and winter. So if you come in autumn and winter, you'll have a almost full gallery of those seasons, whether it's local or international. We like to have both, but we like to have those seasons. But then in spring and summer, because they are not as productive photographically, those seasons, we tend to just have a little bit of everything. And that works really well for us too, because I enjoy curating in those seasons, because it means that if, like, at the moment, I'm reaching my itchy point. I'm like, okay, we've had those up for a month now. I already know which new big print's going in the front window, and I'll start there, and then I'll think about what we've got in the cupboard. And
is it one of yours going in the big front window?
Yes.
Yes.
We've already got one of Matt's.
Yes.
So then we'll have one of each, and I think that's really nice. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's how that works. And we do. So the two things that I keep in mind are, one, it should be about 50% for each of us. on representation on the walls, and
Yep.
2, what is the other thing?
I think I remember Matt saying about, was it something about 50-50 local?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. 50% local and 50% international. And, you know, it changes. It might be 40-60, but, you know, most of the time it's 50-50. And that's because people come to Bright because it's bright. And so we do feel like they want to see imagery that reflects what they came for. But then we also want to be excited about the work that we're producing too. And we've done a lot of travel. Last year was incredible. Last year was the most travel I've ever done in a year. And so you want to be able to have new work on the wall, and you don't want to be limited by, oh, it needs to be local.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. A good mix. Some for them, some for you.
Yeah.
Do you
and
find?
Look, don't get me wrong. I love where we live, and I love having local photos as well. So it's not like we have to have, you know, it's not like that at all. I am very proud that this is where I grew up, and so I definitely want that element to it. But it's more just being conscious of what that percentage is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I guess it could be really easy to go on a big trip or a couple of big trips, get super excited, and then all of a sudden the gallery's 80% international stuff. And like you say, people are walking in excited about Bright and the surrounding area, but not seeing that reflected on the walls. That makes total sense. Yeah.
And you've also got to be realistic about it. As much as it'd be nice to only put your favorites up, you all are also running a business, and I imagine you've got to understand what sells in your market, like any business, and cater to the customer's needs to a degree.
To a degree, and that's something that we both are very adamant about. Both of us have known people. So there was a photographer who was up in Broome, and I thought he was the bee's knees. He was just such a lovely man. I can mention him, Nigel Gaunt, and I was just learning photography, and he was fully fledged professional photographer, and he had Red Dirt Gallery in Broome. And we happened to be, at the time I was working as the specialist librarian for the Kimberley Land Council, and he was at an annual general meeting, which is out bush. So the Land Council's AGMs are under the stars, camping, you know, meat in a hole in the ground, salted in water kind of situation. So we were both there, and we went and did a shoot together, sunrise shoot. And I remember saying to him, man, you're living the dream. I hope I get to do what you're doing one day. And he said, no, Mieke, you're living the dream. He said, keep that in mind. He said, we have such a small gallery that I can only have on the walls what people will buy, because I need to pay the rent and blah, blah, blah. And he felt really, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but it really had a huge impact on me. The fact that he really felt that there were certain photos that had to be on the wall in the gallery for him to be able to make ends meet, which meant there was very little room for new work. And that really hit me, and I was like, oh, wow, like I don't ever want to be in a situation where I feel trapped by what I love, you know. So Matt and I both determined very early on, because he had similar experiences with people, we would put work on the walls that we were most proud of as well. Whether we had, like, if we knew it wouldn't sell, it doesn't matter. And the funny thing is this past week, the one photo that we both said, this is probably the photo that is least likely of any of the photos that we've got to sell, we just sold one. So you just never know what, you know, like if you limit yourself, you're limiting yourself. You don't know what people are going to want when they walk in the door. Most of the people who walk in the door are not actually looking for a print. They're coming in to just enjoy the gallery. And then something speaks to them. And the truth is, if it spoke to you, then surely there's someone else out there that it's going to speak to. You just have to wait till that person shows up. So we try really hard to make sure that we're inspired by, you know, our decisions of what's on the wall, as well as making sure that we can keep the doors open by paying the rent.
All right, I need to see this this photo. I have to see it. I'm bringing it up. Hang on.
Do you know what it is?
No,
right.
I want
Cool.
you to tell us. How do I find it? I need to see this.
Go to what's the quickest way to get there?
What do you want me to go to? Instagram or
Tasmania.
something?
Go to Tasmania.
Where's that?
This is the Alpine Light online
sorry.
gallery. In case
on
you're
their
wondering.
Actually,
website,
go to the search bar.
Oh yeah, hang on. Where's that? Oh, here.
Yep,
There we
and
go.
type in uncertainty.
It's Justin's first time on the internet.
I'm figuring it out. It's fun. There's so much stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on. Here we go. This one?
Yeah. So it's the beginning of a bushfire, the Fingal fires in Tasmania. And it is an incredible photograph. It is the only photograph that I really know that makes a bushfire look beautiful. But this fire burned 20,000 hectares and threatened the township of Fingal, and was fortunately put out before it did envelop the town. There was another one that started, and it was coming in two directions for the town. But this is a eucalypt late afternoon sunset light. You can see the little beginnings of the fire, and you can see the smoke, but somehow Matt has made it look beautiful. But the reason we didn't think it would sell is, who wants a photo of a fire on their wall?
Exactly. But there is that regeneration, new growth, that iconic tree. Like there's other themes to fire than just destruction, I guess. You know what I mean? So I guess it depends on, like you say, how it speaks to someone.
Yeah.
And their life and what they've experienced.
Yeah. But
I think there's something about this beautiful tree pushing up through the bush, the scrub, and the question, I think for me, the question remains of, is this tree going to survive this? It's currently getting some sunlight on it. I imagine, is that sunlight? It's like the afternoon sun falling on the tree. And you've got this fire growing in the background. There's this sort of element of, will it survive or will it?
Exactly. And that's why Matt called it uncertainty, which he's so good with words. We actually did a joint exhibition early on before we opened the gallery as part of the Ballarat International Photo Biennale. And we did it all on trees. And it was our first exhibition together. It was a joint exhibition. And I was struggling with coming up with a name, and he just nailed it. Photosynthesis.
Yeah.
The synthesis of our photography as well as trees. And he's just so I name my work as soon as I finish it. Like, once a photo is finished, it never gets, well, there's the rare exception it gets called untitled, and that's usually because it's about to go in the bin. But if I feel like it might, basically whenever I finish a photo, it gets given a name when I've finished editing. Matt's different. He keeps the file name until we decide that it's going in the gallery or going on the website. And so he hates the naming process, which is funny because, he is so brilliant with words.
Good at it.
But, yeah.
That's crazy. Just quickly, while we're on the site, Joel Bramley Photography. Hey, Joel. Was on the site having a look, grabbed a calendar. Bit late getting on this year.
Thanks, Joel. I'll get that in the post after work today.
So, calendars available at Alpine Light, alpinelight.com.au. $20, you're basically giving them away. That's cheap.
Click on the next image, Justin, the thumbnails of all the images.
Yeah.
Oh, you really don't need to do a promo, guys.
No, I want to look.
They're beautiful photos.
So each year we do a local calendar, and each year it's definitely a challenge to try and come up with 12 new images from our local area, because like last year, for example, we were away in February, we were away in July, August, only for a few weeks, and then we were away for our honeymoon for 6 weeks. So we hardly have any photos for our calendar this year. So we are on a mission now.
You're on a mission?
To get 12 new photos.
Are the photos, do they reflect each season, or are they literally taken in that month? Or is it just reflecting?
Reflecting of the season. So for example,
okay.
Yeah, so for example, the Aurora photo, that could be any time of the year, but we rarely get good photos in January because of how harsh the light is here.
Yeah.
So, and besides, sunrise is so early and sunset is so late that getting up for sunrise is a pain in the butt, and
Yeah.
going out to shoot after dinner is a pain in the butt. So we don't tend to do a lot of photography in summertime.
Plus, it's school holidays, which for Bright is like a crazy time. So there's going to be people around the gallery, and I'm sure you guys are working flat out. So that makes sense.
So summertime tends to be, whatever doesn't quite fit and doesn't look too wintry or autumny.
Yeah.
So the second one across just made me think of all the summers I've really enjoyed being at the river. So that's why that one's in February. And then obviously we go into autumn, and the next three are autumn, and then clearly the snow is winter. And then spring, we get a bit of fog through spring, so we've got that. And then I specifically went to Mount Beauty to photograph the Mount Beauty Gorge, because Mount Beauty is definitely a place that's very beautiful, but not as well recognized as Bright, but it's just, 20 minutes over the hill. And then, we try and have a mix of Bright photos, Mount Buffalo, Falls Creek, Mount Hotham. Yeah.
David says, early arrival beef hoppers were lucky enough to be given an Alpine light calendar.
Yes.
Thanks, Mieke.
Pleasure.
I didn't see those when we were there.
I didn't get one.
You could have grabbed one too.
It doesn't matter.
We'll get one. That's very cool.
Anyway.
Beautiful website.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Matt designed the website. Pardon me. Matt's very good at web design. And
So
actually, I might segue, because you asked a question earlier, Justin, that I do want to get back to, and that was about supporting two photographers.
Yeah.
The gallery. And this, so I'll tell you, it's exciting. What we did realize is it can barely support two photographers. It can happily support one photographer, but it can barely support two. So Matt has come up with a fantastic new business, which I know you've had a little try of. I didn't get to watch last week's episode, but I think you mentioned it. So he has a brand new business.
We didn't get a chance to submit photos.
Okay.
We're dragging our feet, but we have a plan. Greg and me and Jim are all going to, and maybe Grant as well, are all going to submit images.
Well, do it quickly, because you've got 2 weeks.
I know.
Yeah.
But then
Matt's put a deadline on it.
I believe Matt's going to come on and roast us, and also crown someone the champ, which is the opposite of what the website's for.
What I will say about Matt is he is the best judge I've ever heard speak about visual art. He is so good at explaining why things work and why things don't, and what he sees. So when I listen, but we both do judging for the Professional Photography Awards. And when I listen to him judging a category like photojournalism, for example, what he sees in the image at first glance, most people don't see until they've been looking at it for 5 minutes. He is so astute at taking in all the information in a split second. And he'll notice like the correlation between the story that's, obviously happening, and like the wall markings, or, a little snippet that, most people would, do you know what I mean? Like, he's so good at seeing everything. And so his business, for those of you who don't know, because I've just kind of launched into, so it's called Photo Kaizen, and Kaizen is apparently the Japanese word for continual learning.
Yep.
So
continuous improvement,
Kaizen,
continual learning. Yep.
Yeah, continuous improvement. Yeah. So the idea is that his website is set up so that you can submit images and get photo critique without having to enter competitions, without having to do one-on-one mentoring. But it's not live yet. So you can join up, but he would prefer at the moment, when it's not quite live yet, to have people who know exactly what they're in for, and it's basically in testing. So recognize that it is the testing phase. But yeah, if you do want to submit, but can I just ask, maybe not everyone do it this week, because he's actually having a week off, and he will feel compelled to give you feedback straight away. So maybe wait till next week, because I'm taking. So we've each got 5 days off because, as you alluded to, the school holidays in Bright mean that December, January are crazy busy for us. So in February, we either go away or we take 5 days off in a row. So his 5 days off in a row started yesterday. So if you can wait till Monday, if you want to do this, that would be awesome, because then he's in the gallery the whole week and he'll be very happy to do the critique.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. That's a good plan. So
and anyway, I don't want to dwell too much on that because I don't think he was expecting me to talk about it. So
that's okay. But I will add another segue if I could. Justin, can I share a screen?
Go for it. Hang on. Let me remove this for you. Go for it. You should be
speaking of awards, Mieke, I came across this on your website. This is a list of the awards and honorary mentions that you've received throughout your career. You've been a very, very busy photographer.
It's crazy. Look at
that. Let me explain.
No. Hang on. Just let the people absorb. Look at 2019.
Keep scrolling.
Look at 2019.
Look at it. I really need to explain this. So the reason
it just keeps going.
When I was living up in the Kimberley, I wasn't a member of the AIPP. I didn't have connections to other photographers. I was kind of bashing away by myself, and I needed some way of, I guess, improving my work. And the only way that I could see to improve my work was through the Australian Photographic Society honours system. And through the Australian Photographic Society, we also have membership of FIAP, which is the Fédération Internationale de l'Art Photographique, which is essentially the European honours and distinctions main body. So there's lots of different organisations that provide this kind of thing. But because the APS was closely affiliated with FIAP, that's what I decided to do. So the way that I looked at it was, in order to improve your photography, it's a good idea to see what photographs do well and try and aim for that level of photography. So when you enter these international competitions, you get a catalogue of work at the end of it, and you see all the award-winning images and the accepted images. Each competition has an exhibition at the end of it, whether it's digital or print, and all of the images that are exhibited are in the catalogue. So you end up getting all these amazing catalogues of international work. And it was a way of working towards a goal. So both the APS honours and the FIAP distinctions, you can do hand in hand at the same time. And it was a long-term project. But when I was up in the Kimberley, it just was the right thing for me to do, to have motivation to improve, but also to be incrementally improving over the years. So that's why there's so many, because I was like trying to achieve my honours.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It might also be because you're quite an amazing photographer, I think. There's that as well. So
speaking of which, hang on, sorry, just quickly. Matt's
finally joining us.
Good morning, Matt. Couple of points. Why are you an hour late joining on your partner's debut on the Camera Life podcast? But Matt says he's tuned in expecting to hear about Mieke, but only hearing about her mediocre partner.
Yeah, he's so humble. You'll never ever hear Matt say he's any good, and he's freaking
when you look at this, list, Matt, how could you feel nothing else?
Actually, that's a good question, Matt. What's your list look like compared to that? I think maybe we should have like a list length.
Oh no, he's got heaps as well.
His is pretty long.
Yeah, I mean, he won Australian Photographer of the Year. That's certainly something.
Yeah, but we're not talking about him today. So
that's right. Back to
Matt said he slept in because he goes to bed far too late. Yeah, I think we're all a bit guilty of that. And Amanda has said, sorry, just one last question. Sorry, Justin, I keep cutting you off. What a great offering by Matt talking about Photo Kaizen.
I can't wait to see how Photo Kaizen evolves.
Yeah,
it's going to be great. I think it is something that's missing in being able to get useful, like tangible critiques without having to put yourself head to head against other photographers,
Yeah.
or before you want to put yourself against other photographers. Either you're not interested in comps, or you just want to evolve a bit before you put that work into a competition or refine something. I think it's amazing.
So this is the thing. If I was where I was in Broome and Photo Kaizen was available, I would have picked Photo Kaizen over the FIAP and APS honors system. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All I really wanted was a way to improve and get quality feedback. When I first started out, I was lucky that I joined a website called Australian Digital Photo of the Day, which was brilliant, run by a couple of guys, Russell and Bernie. And they would literally pick a photo of the day every day, and then there would be a photo of the month. And that's where I started when I still had my little Kodak EasyShare point and shoot. And there was an unwritten rule, but it was a very strong unwritten rule that you couldn't really put your photos up for submission unless you commented on other people's work.
Yeah.
So you got quality feedback, and I was green as a grasshopper. I was not very good, but I was on there every single day for the feedback, you know, and I learned so much. Like, I remember one of my biggest learning experiences was when I had my little Kodak EasyShare point and shoot. This guy Mick uploaded this amazing photo. I think it was Mick. It was either Mick or John, and it was a photo of a tree that had fallen over in the water, and it was this amazing shot that had this great foreground and then a tree in the back, and it just like the foreground looked massive, and I was trying to get a photo like that with my little Kodak EasyShare, and I couldn't get it, and I was so frustrated. And so I finally went back to the photo, and underneath I wrote, "How do you do that? I can't seem to get a photo like this." And I'm pretty sure it was Mick wrote back, "You need a wide angle lens." I'd never heard of a wide angle lens. I didn't know what that was. Like, how do you learn this stuff if you don't have photographers around you? So I do think that there is a huge gap for people who either don't want to join a camera club or can't join a camera club or don't want to enter a competition. Like, it's really limited the feedback you can get. Having said that, recently I've come across a great resource for nature and landscape photographers. It's called Nature Photographers Network. So I haven't contributed to that, but if I were starting out and I wanted quality feedback, that's probably where I would go. But now, you know, with Photo Kaizen, I think it's going to be a lot more targeted and a lot more thorough in the feedback that you can get, rather than just a couple of comments.
Just a couple of points on that, Mieke. I think you're right. Photography can be a very solo and isolating experience, especially if you are, you know, I identify as an introvert. I'm very shy. I have a lot of what do we call it again? Imposter syndrome. So being able to access, whether it be a service like Photo Kaizen, a mentor, or even just being a part of a community like what we're trying to build here with the Camera Life, where you can learn from peers, where you can ask questions. It's really essential to development. You know, it's not like, especially if you're brand new to it, it's kind of like handing someone a hammer and a box of nails and expecting them to know how to build a birdhouse. You know, just because you've got a camera doesn't mean you know how to use it, doesn't mean you know anything about composition or, you know, wide angle lenses or telephoto lenses. There's a lot of learning. Off that point, I want to point out that you've done an impressive amount of work. You should feel incredibly proud to build such a strong brand for yourself. You know, I think putting aside the list of accolades and looking at the quality of work and the way that you're presenting it on your website, and obviously, you know, having your own gallery space is a dream come true for many of us. But the way that you have purposefully driven your interest into passion, into employment, into a lifestyle is really impressive. And I think it's something that, you know, a lot of people can learn from, that with determination, and looking for opportunity to improve yourself, to expand yourself, to create better work, I think there's a lot to learn from that. So congratulations and well done.
Thank
Very
you.
impressive.
Can I tell a little story along those lines?
Please.
Do it.
We love stories. That's why we're here.
So some people who are watching already know this story, but it's a good one. So when I was living up in Broome, and I was doing a lot of hiking at El Cuestro and Home Valley Station, all of the really incredible Kimberley accommodation places out in the middle of nowhere. I kept bumping into people who kept saying, "If you love this, you're going to love Carragini." So Carragini is down in the Pilbara, which is south of the Kimberley. And some people think of them kind of together, but actually they're a long way away from each other. It's a 10 and a half hour drive from Broome to Tom Price. So it's not exactly close. But anyway, I picked up a photography magazine, and there was this, I think it was called Photo 500 competition or something like that. And this fellow had won it, and there was all his work, and it was amazing. And then there was an ad for this landscape photography workshop in Carragini. And I was like, oh man, that's perfect. It was really expensive, but I was like, I think I need to do this. I think I need to do a hands-on workshop. So I'd never heard of the fellows running it, but there were 3 of them. And so I requested the time off work, and they said you needed a laptop with Photoshop on it, but I didn't have a laptop. And I tried to, I asked anyone at work if they would loan me their laptop, but no one had one that was going to be free for a week. And then I contacted the computer shop, and they didn't rent laptop. And so I was fine. So in the end, I packed up my whole entire PC, the hard drive and the monitor, and I drove the 10 and a half hours to Carragini National Park and found out that I was in a workshop with Tony Hewitt, Christian Fletcher, and Peter Eastway. And everyone seemed to know who these fellows were, but I got them mixed up, and everyone thought that was absolutely hilarious. So this was right at the beginning when I had a DSLR camera. I didn't really know how to use Photoshop. I'd never been able to figure out how to create a layer in Photoshop. I'd used it, but I didn't know adjustment layers. So I was really, really, really new. And the cool thing is because it was Carragini, we all had to share rides. And I was in the car with Tony Hewitt, and he's a very inspiring person. Like, just the way he thinks about the world is quite inspiring, I think. And so we were having a yarn, and he was like, well, you have an eye for photography, he said. And one thing that I suggest to you is pick up a book called The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. He's like, there's a chapter in there on the 10,000 hour rule. He's like, they didn't come up with it, but there's this thing that says, if you put in 10,000 hours at any skill, you will be a master by the time you've done your 10,000 hours. And the way that Malcolm Gladwell goes into it and shows examples of this, it really resonated with me. And I got excited because I thought, all I have to do is practice. That's it. It's just like sport. And I'd been an athlete for many years prior, and, having to do your workout morning and night is a pain in the butt. But if you don't do it, you notice very quickly that your muscles, you're in pain the next time you do it because you didn't do it repeatedly. So I applied my sport thinking to the photography and just went, if I do a little bit every single day, even though I'm working full time, if I do a little bit every single day, whether it's editing or whether it's out there shooting, I'm working towards my 10,000 hours, and I will get there. And that was really what my motivation was. And I don't know when I hit the 10,000 hours, but I've definitely hit the 10,000 hours. But it's like 10, 12, 13, 14 years of photography to hit that. So basically I was on a mission, and doing these comps helped keep me kind of accountable to putting in those hours.
So you would say that just consistent practice every day, half an hour, whatever you can spare, for years and years and years is what led you to now being able to support yourself through landscape photography, which is in itself insanely rare. Like people that actually support their lifestyle through landscape photography and a gallery and workshops and all of those things that you've been able to achieve.
So I wouldn't necessarily agree with that statement. What I would agree with is you become skilled enough to make beautiful work. Like you become an excellent photographer, but the skills involved in opening a gallery are completely different, and the skills involved in running workshops are completely different.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you need 10,000 hours in different things if you want to be as good at them as the photography.
Very true. I was probably going the wrong direction in terms of more like it made you into a photographer that is capable of having the work. Because I mean, I guess you can build a business around average work if you are an excellent business person. To be able to run a successful gallery, you can't be a shit photographer. You just can't. So
no.
So to what I more meant was to get yourself to the level of photography required to even have the conversation about could I build a business around this. It was just consistent practice, a little bit at a time.
And so often we do get younger photographers come in and, they see that we're doing this and they want to do that. And often I'll get questions around that. And we're quite, whenever someone comes in with a question, we're very happy to have a chat. So I do get these chats. And the first thing that I say to people is you need to have a long-term plan, because it took 10 years of, working towards this to have this and to have a body of work that's deep enough to have a gallery. Because once you've opened a gallery, you no longer, normally, last year was an exception, but you're pretty much tied to the gallery, and you kind of have to close the gallery if you go and take photos. So you need enough photos before opening the gallery, because once you've opened the gallery, you've got too many other commitments and you don't get to take as much work.
Time to shoot.
So how do you manage that?
Well,
do you and Matt take it in turns?
Oh, okay. So basically there's a few things that involved. We are open 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which most of the year means that you can actually do a sunrise or a sunset shoot before or after. We're closed one day a week on Wednesdays, and that gives us an opportunity that if there's good weather, we can go off and make the most of that. But we also give each other, that sounds wrong, but you'll understand, we give each other one extra day off a week. So we both have Wednesday off, and then each of us has another day off. So we don't have weekends. There's no such thing as weekends anymore, but we get a Wednesday and another day. And usually I tend to do it more than Matt at the moment because he's working on his business. But I'll look at the weather and say, hey, it's looking really good on Tuesday. Can I take Tuesday off? And so he'll be in the gallery on Tuesday and I'll go hiking and get sunburnt on my day off. And then, we just make sure that if opportunities come up, we talk about them. So, for example, the last 3 times in the last 4 years, I think it is, we've been in New Zealand to judge the Professional Photography Awards over there. And so we've taken time off to do our own photography while we're there. And so we actually really like shooting together. One of the things that I enjoy most is at the end of a day shooting together, we'll show each other what we've taken photos of, and it's invariably completely different. It's amazing. We see so differently. And I love how Matt sees the world. So that experience is just wonderful. So I think both of us were a bit skeptical about being able to shoot with someone else enjoyably. But the truth is we don't really talk to each other. And that's how we like it. Like we just go to a place and we might not even talk on the way there if it's in the morning, because Matt is not much of a morning person. So often it'll be quiet on the way there, and then we'll shoot, and then we'll talk on the way home. But it's just really nice that we can enjoy each other's company without feeling the need to fill it with noise.
Yeah,
that is very,
very cool. I'm just going to take a little pause because I think we might have Mieke for like maybe half an hour more because she's got a gallery to run.
Yeah.
So this is your chance. If you're listening, a lot of people have just joined us recently. We normally go live at 9 a.m. So our listeners have doubled since 9 o'clock. Good to see you all here. We've got an award-winning landscape photographer, co-owner of Alpine Light Gallery, Mieke Boynton, here to
I thought you were talking about someone else.
No, you're the award winner.
You were about to
You're
say someone
here.
just joined us.
Someone's joining us. You're done now. We've got someone else.
Yeah, competition.
They also own a gallery. No, you're here. You're with us. This is your chance. If you're listening along, ask questions in the live chat. We'll bring them up on the screen. You can answer anything. We're gonna, in the next half an hour, I'm hoping to get to some stuff about gear, because that's always fun. Just find out what you're shooting with. We can ask more questions about like editing, printing, how to be an epic photographer, which we've already learned. To be an epic photographer, you just do 10,000 hours and it's done. It's that simple.
Let's jump to some comments.
Some comments here. Oh no, I've forgotten Jason.
Jason.
Yep. That's right. He says, similar to Ansel Adams' idea, the mantra that your first 10,000 photos are rubbish, which is true, unless you've got like a modern camera that shoots 40 frames a second, in which case probably your first 50,000 or 100,000 photos are rubbish.
I like that, but I think if you think that your photos are rubbish right from the beginning, then there's not much incentive to keep going.
Right.
So I think that you have to believe that some of your first 10,000 shots are good, otherwise you won't get to the 10,000 shots.
I always had this push and pull thing where it was like I could go from feeling like I had done something amazing to feeling like I'm so far behind and have so far to go in the space of the same shoot. You know, looking at my photos and stuff like that. And it all depends on like frame of mind. And I think unless you're getting both those feelings, like you say, if you're not getting that feeling of, wow, that looks beautiful, I've done a great job, I'm really excited by this photo that I took. If you don't get that regularly, you're going to struggle to keep doing the thing. But on the other hand, if you don't get a beat down regularly about how much you still got to learn, which was something that, because Jim and I worked together side by side for so many years, we would just beat each other down after weddings to make sure that neither of us thought we were too good. We could just browse over at the other person's computer and be like, dude, what have you done? That looks terrible. And it's a good way to keep progressing forward and not just be like, oh, I'm good enough now, that's it, I'm done, you know? Yeah. So there was always two mindsets I could fall into, and it sort of depended on what my mood was like or what the photos happened to be like from that shoot or whatever, as to whether I felt like, man, I've got so far to go, or wow, I'm actually really starting to get good at this thing. And you need both, I think.
Yeah. I fall into the mindset that, sorry, Mieke, just on your point about, you know, that don't think that your photos are rubbish, even your early stuff. I think every photo is a good photo. What makes a photo bad is if you don't learn from it or the experience of when you actually shot it. You know, if you can't look at one of your photos and think, okay, so I didn't quite get the subject separation, that's because I had it at f2.8. If I dropped it down to f2 or 1.8, then I'm learning from that photo that next time that's what I want to do. I think, but I certainly agree with the 10,000 rule. I think it's, you know, to be a master at a craft or a master in any field, it takes time. Yeah. You know, it takes years of experience.
I think if I had started photography before digital was available, I wouldn't be a photographer. And what I mean by that is I do learn by doing. And my brain is not oriented towards maths. And there's a lot of maths involved in film photography that is not necessary for digital photography because the machine does it for you. So for example, I know my apertures, but I'm not completely up to speed with shutter speed. I can't tell you what freezes what at what shutter speed, but it's not necessary because I use a tripod. So as long as I know my depth of field and as long as I know where to focus and my camera's on a tripod and there's no wind, it doesn't matter how long the shutter speed is. Does that make sense? So so I just feel like if I digital hadn't been invented by the time I was ready to do photography, then I probably wouldn't be a photographer. And going back to your comment,
me too.
yeah,
I
going
feel
back to your
exactly like
comment,
that.
Justin, just because you brought it up early in the piece about social media. What I do want to say about social media is I think all of us have that, I'm great, I'm shit, I'm great, I'm shit kind of situation in our heads. I think it's very natural to oscillate between those two states of being. And I think what the important thing is to be able to recognize where you are on that pendulum. Because, for example, like I think I have the most positive, supportive Facebook page of anybody I know. People are so lovely. It would be really easy for me to think I'm good because people are writing that all the time, which is really, really lovely. But then I go to Instagram and I just see these incredible images because I'm probably an anomaly, but Instagram is like where I see everybody's work. I don't have that set up on Facebook. I only have it set up on Instagram. So if I follow you on Instagram, know that you are actually being followed because I that's where I go for my inspiration. But sometimes if I'm feeling vulnerable, I turn everything off because I know that the feelings that I'm having will be exacerbated if I'm looking at really incredible work and I'm already feeling a bit low and I see all of that and then I just feel like, well, what's the point? So I think the important thing is knowing where your brain is at and either feeding your feelings or removing the exacerbation from your feelings accordingly.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very
beautiful. Matt had a little comment here too, just about the 10,000 hours. He said, with regards to your first 10,000 hours, I recommend any creative watch The Gap by Ira Glass. It's a great brief discussion of some of the creative turmoil you might go through. I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
me
neither.
Very cool.
There was a question from David.
Yes. I'll bring it up. Go, Greg.
Mieke, do you ever have someone open the gallery for you?
Nope. So basically when we travel, we close the gallery, but it's something that we've talked about. The thing is that we have mainly traveled at times of the year when it's not busy, and the cost of putting someone in the gallery, it basically would be pouring money down the drain. So if we get to the point where we want to go away during a busy time, then that would be a time to bring someone on. And we're lucky enough, we've already been approached by at least one person who's like, I really want to run your gallery for you. So that's pretty cool. But one of the reasons people do enjoy our gallery is because Matt and I are in it and they get to meet the photographer who created the work and hear the actual story of how it was created and where it was created and what we were thinking and whether we broke a lens in the process, and all those kind of things factor in to the experience. And we like to think when people come to the gallery, it's more than just a shop. It's actually a place where you can have those conversations and enjoy meeting the photographers. Yeah.
And I think that further enhances that what I was talking about earlier about you. I was referencing your photography brand as opposed to the gallery, but I think it all adds to that brand image that going to the gallery, you're not talking to someone that says, I'll have to get back to you on that because I don't know what camera they used or what lens or, what it was, what time of day, or even, but speaking to the actual photographers enhances that experience for anyone visiting the gallery. Just a very quick question, just on a ratio, what do you think the mix is of art you sell, images you sell in the gallery versus the online store?
The gallery, gallery's probably 95%.
Oh, wow.
And
That's amazing.
Part of that as well is before we opened, we had a chat about pricing. And my dad, as I mentioned, my mum and dad opened Boynton's a Bright Winery when it was Boynton's a Bright. And one thing that my dad said is you should be able to get the product cheapest at the place that creates it. So, for example, he never sold his wine to Dan Murphy's. He never had it available at a place that could undercut the pricing of the cellar door sales room. And so when we talked about the gallery, we wanted the same kind of thing. We wanted people to be able to get the best price when they come to the gallery. So as a consequence of that, when people come into the gallery and they look like they might be thinking of purchasing something down the track, we always say to them, just so you're aware, the website pricing is a bit higher than the gallery pricing because we want people to come to the gallery. So if you decide to purchase something, just get in touch with us and we'll do an invoice for the gallery price. And people feel a bit special, you know, when they know that's a possibility. And we want to really encourage people to come to the gallery because we are in a relatively we're in a regional / remote. It's not remote when you've lived up in the Kimberley, but it's definitely off the beaten path in terms of drive-through traffic. So we made that decision right from the beginning. So I think that factors in a little bit to the sales through the website, because if anyone's been to the gallery, they actually email us. So it's not a purchase through the website.
Right. Yep.
Love it.
Very cool. And for anyone who's wondering, Bright is accessible. If you don't have a car, or if you're, a young photographer and you want to head to Bright, and while you're there, check out the gallery. You can get a V-Line train from Southern Cross most of the way, and then a bus that stops outside the pub, just near the roundabout in the middle of Bright. And it's only a very, very, very short walk around the corner to the gallery. When we went to BFOP, I didn't have access to a car. Justin had his van parked at the caravan park, and we just walked or, strolled everywhere. It's beautiful, beautiful area.
Yeah. And just to be clear, it's not like the website pricing is way more. So it's not like if you did order through the website, you're paying like $500 more for a print. No, I mean, we're talking negligible difference, but we just want to make sure that, people who have been to the gallery are rewarded for that.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah,
that makes total sense. Now, in our very short time we've got left with you, I do want to really ask you about your gear because it'll be fun. But Jim also just asked a question because he's probably busy packing orders for Lucky.
Someone's got to earn the money.
Someone's got to do the work. In case anyone hasn't checked out Lucky Straps, go to luckystraps.com. We make the best camera straps there are. Jim says, sorry if I missed it. How often are you shooting to supply / fill the gallery? Which we kind of talked about before, but yeah, like how do you guys force yourselves to try and get out a certain number of times a month or a week or anything like that? Or is it just,
Yeah, so we don't have a schedule, obviously, because the weather is such a huge part of landscape photography. And if the weather's boring, then there's no point going out, and that's the truth. And also, we've definitely spent time exploring our local area. So unless it's going to give conditions that give us a different result, then we've already got, a lot of the local areas photographed. So for me, I love photography. I love being out in nature. That's the experience of photography is more important to me than the end result. And that's the truth. And I've questioned myself about that. I'm like, is that really true? Yes, it is. I went on this hike and I didn't get anything worth putting on the walls of the gallery, maybe as an A3, but not, but I enjoyed that experience and I would do it if I was in the same, I won't do it again now, but if I was in the same mind frame, I would definitely make all those decisions again, because it's the enjoyment of being out in nature and kind of feeling and seeing and smelling and listening and just being in a space where you're not thinking about the everyday stuff. It takes me away, and I guess it's kind of maybe self-meditative, maybe it's I don't know, but anyway, it's rejuvenating for me. And so I do try and photograph as often as possible. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means in a normal year, which isn't last year, because last year we went to Norway, Finland, New Zealand, Croatia, Italy, and Slovenia. In a normal year, when we're not doing incredible travel like that, it might mean once a week, once every 2 weeks. So it's not busy, but if I have a day off and the fog is good, for example, I'll probably shoot from 7 a.m. till lunchtime.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's
Yeah.
good.
And it can depend too. In one of those shoots, you might get 2 or 3 gallery worthy pieces. And then, like you say, then you strike out the next 3 shoots. But,
Yeah.
you know, like it's very dependent on conditions and just, how it all unfolds.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of it.
Now, speaking of which, what is your brand of choice? What camera do you currently shoot
I'm a
with?
Nikon shooter. I'm a proud Nikon shooter. I'm actually a Nikon school instructor. And
really?
Of course you are.
Yes. And I've
That's
actually
cool.
got an upcoming abstract class if people are interested in doing my class. It's very, very reasonably priced. I think it's $11.25.
How would they get onto that? Where do they
Eventbrite. If you just go on Eventbrite and type in Nikon Mieke, you'll probably get it because but spell it right. MIE, like friend.
like friend. Mieke like
friend.
sneaker, IE like friend.
Yep. So yeah, Nikon. So, and I'll be perfectly honest, I have a Nikon because my parents bought me a Nikon when they bought me my first DSLR, and I loved it and have never wanted to switch. When the D800 came out, that was such a big game changer.
Yeah.
It really, really sent shockwaves anywhere. And I got one of the first ones. I actually rang 3 different camera shops and I said, what's your wait list? Because, there was a wait list for the D800 because everyone knew it was going to be amazing. Yeah. And the one shop that said, there were 2 shops that said, we can't tell you that. And there was one shop that said, we've got 2. And we're likely to get 6. I was like, put me on the list, baby. Yeah. So I was one of the first to get the D800, which was very exciting. I upgraded to the D810. I got the Z7, but was a bit on the fence about it, but now have the Z8 and love it to bits.
That's what Jim shoots with.
Yeah, Jim shoots with the Z8s as well. But I used to be Nikon, now proudly back to Canon. Love you, Canon. Did you ever shoot with the D850, or did you go?
I did see the D850 and I was jealous, but I wasn't.
Is the best DSLR that I would say ever made. I'd say it's the best DSLR ever made. It was robust, epic sensor. Very similar sensor to the Z7, so you were probably getting similar images, but just the layout of the body, it was so durable. Everything worked. It was just, the way cameras were supposed to be.
The truth is, the D810 was a fantastic workhorse camera, and I used that the longest, and those photos still definitely stand up. The D850 came out kind of too soon after the D810 for me to switch.
Yeah.
And if the mirrorless hadn't come along and I hadn't experienced the weight issues of carrying the DSLR, then I probably wouldn't have switched to mirrorless. I'd still probably be using the D810. It's a fantastic camera, but the D850 had the extra bells and whistles and megapixels. The Z8 has a few extra bits and pieces that I really like from a photographer perspective, having the fact that you don't need to go to bulb after 30 seconds, that you can actually do like a 1.5 minute exposure without needing a remote release, that kind of stuff. Those little things, they seem little, but it actually makes a big difference. Like, I really don't use a remote release anymore. I use a 2-second delay simply because I can do like a long exposure in the camera settings that I used to have a remote release for.
So just for those listening that might not have done that kind of shot before, just explain why you would use a 2-second timer and then onto a longer shutter on a tripod. Like, what would be the situation, and what benefit is that timer?
Yeah, basically any situation where you've got your camera on a tripod and there's a chance that by pressing the shutter, you even just fractionally move the camera. Any situation where that's relevant, it's worth putting on a delay, simply because it gives time for the camera to settle from that minute movement, so that when the shutter goes, it is rock solid steady without any kind of wobble.
Yep.
If it's a situation where the tripod is definitely unstable, like it's windy or it's in a position that makes it a little bit less stable, I will do a 5-second delay to ensure that the camera is completely stable when the shot begins. Because the thing is you can get movement in that first split second and you will see it in the result. So ensuring that the camera is absolutely stable, rock solid before the photo begins is really important.
Yep.
Love it.
And what about lenses? What about, sorry, Justin, what
That's
about lenses?
What do you
go to?
I definitely have my favorites, and I'm unlikely
what are they?
to buy anything new because I love my kit. I have the 70-200 F-mount lens, which I use the adapter for. So that adds a bit of weight, the FTZ adapter. But it means that you can use your DSLR lenses with the mirrorless camera. And I mean, we have a gallery and everything, but we're not made of money. So being able to keep the lenses that I was using with the D810 was a factor in upgrading to the mirrorless. So I've still got my DSLR lenses. So I've got the 24-70 f2.8. I've got the 70-200 f2.8. Both of them are, I use them both equally. I really love having both in the kit. I rarely go anywhere without both of them. Then I also have 2 dedicated fixed focal length prime manual lenses for wide angles for night photography. So I have a 15mm Zeiss and a 21mm Zeiss. They're both ultra sharp. Zeiss is well known for making binoculars. Their glass is fantastic, and
a lot of Leica lenses have Zeiss glass too, and Sony used Zeiss glass.
Yeah, that was huge.
So I've had them since I first got a full frame DSLR, so since the D800, and again, just for financial reasons, there was absolutely no point in me getting more lenses. So those 2 lenses are very sharp and fast, and I use them for night photography, essentially, like almost exclusively for night photography, because you get the whole night sky. So if you're photographing Milky Way, aurora, whatever, then having an ultra wide angle lens is really helpful. And then I also have a Zeiss 100mm that I do almost all my aerial photography with. And then I have a Nikon 50mm old film lens. It's an f1.2 for which I have for aerials as well.
Nice.
Wow. Very cool.
All right, questions. What have I got? So you're using the Z8, that's your main body.
Yes.
First of all, if I ask everyone this, zombie apocalypse is here. You have to grab one camera and one lens. It can be something you've got. It can be anything from anywhere, any camera, anytime.
Yeah.
What do you grab to document the end of the world?
Yeah, grab my own, because I know it, and I feel like knowing your system is the most important thing. It doesn't matter about the camera brand. They're all really, really good as long as you know how to use it. So I would grab my Z8 and I would grab my 24-70.
Nice. Just workhorse. You can do it all with that. Yeah. Very cool. Another question. So landscape photography, to be shown in a gallery where people are going to spend thousands of dollars on beautiful, large pieces of artwork, you're probably one of the very few people that can legitimately be like, I need a high megapixel camera. It's not, you're not just putting stuff up on Instagram. Like, your work gets printed large and then people pay money for it. How important are megapixels for you? Is that something that you're conscious of and thinking, okay, I've got to stay up to date to get my quality higher and higher? Does it not really matter? Talk to us about megapixels.
So megapixels are definitely important. And, you know, when people do come in and chat and they say that they take photos with their iPhone, I say, brilliant, that's awesome, because it means that you're seeing the world in an artistic way. You're really trying to compose things. You're involved in that moment more than what you would be without a camera.
Yeah.
But when you go to print, yes, those megapixels make a huge difference. So the native file size with the Z8 is 8256 by 5504 megapixels.
Nice.
Or PPI. So that's the native file size, which is big. I tend to not do a lot of cropping. I tend to try and compose so that I don't have to crop, because I feel like if you can get it right in camera, then you've got more megapixels to work with.
Yep.
When it comes to making a decision about getting a camera with higher megapixels, like for example, a lot of people ask if we'd go to medium format.
Yep.
The weight and the bulkiness factor certainly make a difference there. And I'm probably more likely to go lighter than I am to go medium format, simply because of the bulkiness and the weight of the medium format cameras. So I'm quite happy with the Z8, but I'll also mention that to create our biggest prints, we've now got technology available to us to enlarge with software. So we have Gigapixel AI that allows us to extrapolate the data that we've captured and increase the file size, so that the native print size is the file size, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So we examine our images very closely to ensure that the integrity is there and there's no hidden Ryan Goslings. If you don't know about that, go look it up. But no, we try to capture as much as possible exactly as it is, and then if it's necessary to use software to enlarge the image, then we have that available to us.
Yep. Very cool.
It's
very conscious of time too.
Yeah, me too. I've got one more question, and actually there's one more in the comments as well. So one quick one in the comments from Jason. Do you ever use your Wi-Fi phone connection to trip the shutter?
I don't, simply because a lot of the time where I'm shooting, it's not connected. I don't have good network connection. It's just easier to have a setup where you're not thinking, you're not assessing, you're not like you just are looking at the important things. And so I actually have airplane mode on my Z8, because I don't want it chewing up battery trying to find a network. I never use that, and it's simply a connectivity issue with where I live.
Last question before we let you go and open your gallery. I saw this on an F-Stoppers article, and I was like, I think this is a great question to ask. Is it okay to love an image, see it and just love it, then find out that it was made with AI and hate it?
Is it okay to do that?
Yep.
I
agree, and I don't know why, but I'm like, I think that's.
We were
that's
having
fine.
a little chat before we started. We were having a little chat about. Oh no, maybe we were even on. I don't know, but we were talking like when. Oh yeah, that's right. No, you did say, because my tagline on Instagram is real photos of real places.
Yeah,
and it's because there was a time when my explore feed in Instagram was all AI created images, which are not photographs. And I'm only interested in photographs because I have such care for the environment and the real world and places that exist, and the feeling that you get when you go to places and explore, and all of those things factor in. And I feel like AI created imagery has none of that. And so, I'm disappointed if I see something and I go to the person's bio and it says digital creator, then I think, well, 99% sure that's AI, and I'm not interested in that. So, and I do find that when people come to the gallery, they want to know the story. They want to know the authenticity of the image. There is a human element in landscape photography or photography in general that matters. It's
Absolutely.
You can have a beautiful image is a beautiful image, no doubt about it, but there's something in authenticity that really matters to me. And I think that goes back to loving nature and just really appreciating the real world and the luck involved in being there at the right time with the right conditions, and the joy you get when you experience something incredibly special. AI can't do that. It can't give you that experience, and therefore my involvement in that image is negligible.
Yeah. I think it's a real shame that
amazing
AI has been geared, and it's the most popular hype you hear about it, to simplify workflows and processes, when in actual fact, as humans, we need to be spending more time creating real art and letting the robots and the computers deal with the mundane day-to-day stuff. But at the moment, it's the other way around. We're basically just making art into another chain of convenience stores.
Yeah,
it's easy, it's simple.
Matt jumped on board with the AI stuff early on, and he showed me what he did with it. It's incredible and fascinating, and like, I like it for sure, but it's not photography. And
no, it's different. Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that, there's lots of different types of art where I'm like, oh, that's really cool, but I wouldn't want to buy it and I wouldn't want it on my wall, and it's not photography. So I think as long as you call a spade and go, well, that's that thing and that's not what I'm into, then great, no worries, all good.
Exactly.
Just a little side note, just before we let you go, a company in the US has just secured the first ever copyright protection for an artwork entirely generated by AI from the US Copyright Office.
That just is weird.
It is weird. It's weird to know. So it's an interesting topic, and it's one that we keep covering here on the Camera Life podcast, because it is, as I said, it's this convenient set of tools that, yes, can create images and now video, and very compelling and convincing too. It's getting very, very hard to tell the difference. And I think overnight, Adobe just launched an AI video creation tool or update to one of their existing platforms. It's here to stay. We're not necessarily going to shout it down because too many big corporations have their hands in it.
We have to accept it. It's going to change. Yeah, there's no
great
point
tools.
No point sticking your head in the sand. It is here. It's here to stay. It's going to increase. It's going to be ubiquitous. But what I have found is, in terms of appreciation, we are getting more appreciated as the photographers who created the images, because we are, and because people really like that human element. So I don't think it's necessarily threatening to everyone. It's definitely threatening to certain genres of photography. But I feel like with landscape photography and nature photography, there's no substitute for the real thing.
Yep, agreed.
I think we should leave it on that. Well, we'll let you go. We'll let you go and start your day. Greg and I might stay on for 5 or 10 minutes and go through some of those comments. But thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to have you back on to dig into more. We could have talked about all your trips last year, and there's so much that we could talk about. We can make a podcast
just on you for the next 6 months.
Definitely not. You'd lose all your
schedule that in.
We'll do a full season. Thank you very much. If anyone's keen to dig into more of your work, we'll put all the links to everything. Most of them are already in the description, but we'll put more if we need to put more. With that, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. And I look forward to seeing you in October.
We'll be there.
Or at Spartan. If you,
I'm not doing
I'll-
Spartan. I'm not a Spartan. I'll see you in October.
if you
I'll
can
pop in at
hobble,
Spartan.
hobble in, Justin, I'll see you then.
I'll hobble past. Philip
All
Johnson
right.
says, thank you, Mieke. And
Thanks,
yeah.
Philip. Great to see you. I look forward to meeting you in person one day. Philip, the photo behind me, actually, Philip was, I was very green. He was an amazing photographer, and his work on beautiful snow gums and eucalypts inspired me a lot. We were both on a website called Redbubble, and if I haven't had a chance to tell you, Philip, but your beautiful misty tree photos were hugely inspiring to me when I was starting
look
out.
at that.
Yeah.
Well done, Philip.
That's so cool. Awesome, Philip.
Very
Bruce,
cool.
Hey,
Bruce
Bruce.
says thanks. Paul says thanks.
Oh, hi. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. I better go open up.
All
Yeah,
right.
okay. Enjoy your day.
I will. I'll leave you in peace. And we'll talk.
Whoop, she gone.
Yep.
Awesome. What
That
a
was
great
very,
podcast.
very cool. Oh, that's so inspirational.
It is.
Let's
There's a
go
ton
through
of-
some comments.
ton of comments here. Let me go. I got to go way back. Where did we get up to? Let's just dig back into the like 20 minutes ago comments, which is Joel Bramley saying, if he gets a shot out while exploring, it's just a bonus. The exploration and potential to capture something is amazing, and that's a unique reward. It's exactly it. Use it as a reason to get out and enjoy the world, and if you get something, it's a bonus.
Absolutely.
Digifrog says, hi all. These early starts get me every time. Yes, we did start early today so that Mieke could open up the gallery on time. But most of the time we'll aim for 9. But every now and then, we've got to change it to make sure our guests can fit in.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you hit the bell, you'll get a notification, because we're also now doing Monday evening here in Australia time, Monday evening podcast called what are we calling it? The Random Photography Show.
The Random Photography Show. We gave away a strap on the show, and David, who I'll bring up his comment in a second, not David Skinner, David Mascaro, I think he said it was very late in the US. He wasn't awake, and he wants to know if we'll do a giveaway in his time zone. We will. Maybe not next week, but we'll figure something out and we'll get it done. We'll get you a chance to win a strap. You deserve it.
Anyone can. Anywhere. We'll ship everywhere. Are you shipping to Canada again? Is that still?
Yeah, Canada's back on. Their postal strike is over. Canada's back on. If you're in Canada, you're all good. Speaking of which, David from San Francisco says his D850 is smiling right now. I think that's when we were chatting about what an amazing camera it is, because it is a beautiful camera.
Now, was David Skinner, was David the person that smashed their camera with a sledgehammer? Is that how they got into Nikon?
Oh, what was it? The guy, yes, David Skinner. I joined the Nikon dark side via BFOP. He must have been the one that smashed his Sony with a sledgehammer to win, and they were supposed to stop it at the last second, and there was a miscommunication, and he hit it.
Or was there?
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was good clickbait. For those of you that don't know, check out this past episode a BFOP episode where we talked about it. So that's probably kind of, like the third week in October. So go back and have a look at talking about that, because Justin photographed it, got some absolutely gorgeous shots of that experience.
of the camera getting smashed.
Yeah, but also just the reaction from people and
it was
it was very cool.
Jason says the weight and portability of Micro Four Thirds has kept him with that system. Are you looking into the OM3? What are your thoughts on the OM3? Tell us. It's pretty cool.
Want one.
You want one, Greg?
Yeah, I do now.
Well, we just got to try. We're going to get you one as a review camera. That's what we got to figure out.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
You're uniquely positioned to assess that camera and its ergonomics compared to Fujifilm, I think.
Indeed. Well, when you speak to OM head office, could you let them know that?
I will. I'll send them your resume.
Thank you.
Matt Palmer, here he is again. He says, so we're getting into AI again now. I think the reason that we don't like AI as photographers is if AI plays itself off as another medium, then it's a form of deception, and we don't like being deceived. Deception in the form of giving you more is okay. Oh, interesting. Deception in the form of giving you more is okay. I don't know if I understand that part. We'll have to get him on to discuss. I actually think it'd be cool to get both of them on one of our Monday evening shows if they've got the time. I reckon that'd be super fun. Joel Bramley says, if it's not possible to visit the location or know it's a real place, then I'm out. Yeah, that you can see social media just filling up with these epic cliff valley sunset, Milky Way, aurora, unicorn flying through, AI photos. That's just, and unless you can prove that's something on Earth. I mean, it's amazing for digital art's sake, but when it's being passed off as landscape photography, that feels
I think so. I think it's Facebook is already moving to stamp any AI generated photos on the site as AI generated photos, which I think all social media platforms should do, because it is deception, as Matt said.
But they went through that little pickle that if you were using Lightroom's AI tools, you were getting labeled as AI. Like if you removed a fly from your photo using their little heel tool that now
or
uses
even the denoise.
Exactly, and it was getting. But I think they've fixed that because that was basically flagging all these photographers' real images as this is just AI generated, and all they've done is used a tool that has AI. I don't even know how. Geez, there.
Yeah. Well, Lightroom's had AI functions for years and years. It's not new.
Yeah. No, it's not new.
It's not new.
But
it's just because AI is such a hot term and a hot topic, and we see lots of news about it and lots of brands saying they're embracing it, all that sort of thing. So
I believe Google has now just implemented their own AI tagging stuff, but it's embedded in the image. It's embedded and you can't see it. But it can be scanned or something like that. It's clever. It's all evolving fast, but I think we're going to evolve very fast to a point where if something, and we've talked about this before with Leica and Fuji and the few other camera brands that are doing the content authorization, built into the file.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to get more robust fairly quickly to the point where this is a photo.
Yeah. And Lightroom will stamp, if you've used AI denoise, it will put that in the file name. You can change it, but the initial file name will always have that stamp in there. So it's interesting.
Jason says, if you're selling me a photo of a waterfall, I want to know that you hiked, traveled, got yourself there in the prevailing conditions of light and took it yourself. Yeah. I agree.
Because often when we look at a photo like that, and it was the same, I remember when I was younger, because I've always been into art, I'd go to the National Gallery here in Victoria and stare at these amazing, 200-year-old landscape paintings. And they were so beautiful that you could always almost imagine yourself being there in the place of the painter. And I think there's an element of that that's the same for photography, that how did they get that shot? And if it's a real shot, that adds to the efficacy and the drama of the image, that if you can imagine that, wow, that photographer actually got to the top of that cliff to take that shot versus someone just sitting in their parents' basement putting in text prompts.
We talked about this.
Very different experience.
We talked about this with Richard Taddy with his nightscape images and where this line is between photography and digital art, because he'll use a star tracker to capture the sky.
Yeah.
And then separate foreground photos and blend them together. But he did that in the same, half an hour at night in the same location, but did it in a way so that he could render the landscape as what he feels is his view of this situation. But that's very different to him taking a night sky that he took 3 years ago and then overlaying it over a foreground that he made with AI or whatever behind, and saying that this is, because he's sort of got his own, I guess, code of ethics of what is photography in his mind, and it can be many images blended together, but it's not going to be, I guess, they're not too different. They're not from different spots. One was from a location 300 kilometers away from this location, or a different night that happened to have an aurora, and then he moved himself to a spot that had a cool waterfall in the foreground or whatever. It's an interesting
It is. And it would be
Slippery
interesting to
slope.
compare what people are experiencing now in our professions with the move to AI manipulated art or imagery versus how people behaved when it moved from film to digital. You know, I'm sure that there were countless naysayers and saying this would be the end of photography.
Yeah, how do we even know this is real? You know, you could just put it in Photoshop and cut things out of it and add things into it. You know, that's
photos
true.
don't belong on a computer. Like, you know, it's all that. It's it's a generational kind of change in a way.
Yeah,
you know, it's like going from gas lighting to electricity. Like it's I don't know.
But it'll work itself out. It always does. Again, Matt says, I don't believe AI replicates people's artwork, but the training data is a problem. The best way I've heard it described is copyright laundering. And that is a concern. You know, it's like all these brilliant photographers, you know, their life's work has been kind of scanned and is now just in this AI engine to replicate something, an amalgamation, you know, of all this hard work and copyrighted imagery. If
you've been putting your photos on social media for all these years, and they're now using that imagery to train AI.
Yep.
You know,
but that's one thing because technically, you know, everyone knows. Everyone knows those terms and conditions are pretty shit. And they can do what they want with it. But you know what's worse, I think, is kind of the stock photography sites that kind of hook you in as a potential, you know, like, hey, you can earn money, you know, people license your images, and then all of a sudden you find out that they licensed their entire catalog to an AI company without telling you that was what the plan was, you know? I don't know. It's weird.
David Skinner is the Beefop David.
Yeah, what's he said here? Philip Johnson, the look on the face of Matt and Nick was priceless. It was priceless.
Yeah, it was.
It was priceless.
The whole room had that. Did he really? He did. And then it was, did they mean for that to happen? Like, That was a fun experience.
Joel says he would love an OM3. Until then, the EM1 Mark III is an amazing camera. I haven't shot a lot with the Micro Four Thirds. I'd really like to give it a go.
You're a bit of a full frame snob.
Jason says, I emailed you about the OM3, Justin, strongly considering a pre-order. All right, I'll email you back and we'll discuss. I see you might have seen our custom straps, our Olympus straps. No, OM Systems.
OM System.
Doing that. OM System. I don't know why I'm in the Olympus mindset.
Did we cover Matt's second half of that comment about giving?
No. When he was talking about giving with AI, I ran out of characters. Giving you more, AI giving you more would be like giving someone extra goodies with their order or underplaying the rarity of a photograph to explain it later. That kind of more fun reveal. Okay.
Yep.
Talk to Aaron at OM Systems. He'll sort you out, I reckon. I wonder if he's talking about you getting a review camera.
That'd be nice.
You know what else is nice? We're at 899 subscribers. That's pretty amazing.
What?
If anyone's listening now and you haven't subscribed, even if you don't want to be subscribed, just please just tick us over the 900 just for fun. Come on, I'm refreshing it. Come on, one of you, please. Anything else, Greg, for today?
A little bit of news. Not a lot going on at the moment. It's been a quiet week.
What do you got?
Well, it's now possible to buy a Leica for $330, but I need to explain myself. So I'm going to bring up my screen.
I think I saw this, and I actually think I wanted to get it to do like a YouTube video on it and see what it's like. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm kind of tempted.
Let's see.
Are we on the same page? The Leica Lux Grip.
We are on the same page. You know what? I actually think it would make me more like enjoy shooting with my phone more. I looked at it and I was like, I'm kind of down for this.
I don't like the insecurity of holding this is it's an iPhone 14. It's just the small size, but I don't like the insecurity of holding it because I don't use a case.
Really?
I know. Lucky Straps don't make them. I raw dog my phone. That
I
sounded
did.
so
I
wrong.
did for a little while. I know that's the word of the year at the moment, but yeah, it does sound wrong. But I like it. It's funny.
It is.
I did it for a while because someone said, like, phones are not designed. Like, you're supposed to enjoy the fact that it's small. This is how they design it, and I completely agree. And they got a lot stronger. So I think with my like 15 or 14 or something like that, I rolled caseless, and within the first 2 days, I dropped it and smashed the back of it, and I was like, all right. I am too clumsy.
I never drop my phone.
I'm too clumsy to use no case.
Never drop it.
I drop it all the time.
This uses the maglock.
Yes.
Which is already on the phone. And you can actually rotate it. So you can see here, let me just bring up the images. You can actually rotate it. What's that? How many degrees is that? 90 degrees?
Yeah.
And so basically what it adds, it adds a mechanical shutter button, two customizable function buttons, and a command dial on the front.
I'm ordering it.
I think it gives you about like 2 hours of consistent battery life use. But what's nice about it, I think, is that it just adds that grip. Like, even if you took away the buttons and I think it uses Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connectivity to control. Look, it doubles as a stand. That's pretty cool. But even if you took away the functionality, it's just a nice organic shape. And it just adds that purchase, that ability to grip and maybe control some of those. When you're taking photos and you're holding your camera landscape controls, you can access the controls with your thumb. But it is a $330 US dollar. What's that? About 6,000 Australian dollars. No, it's about what, 500?
Oh, probably. I'm just looking it up now. I was going to order it.
Leica being Leica,
Ouch.
you can also order. You need to order this too, Justin. The groovy leather case. I know you can just make one.
I'll make my own.
Yeah,
I'll make my own, and I'll make it fit the phone as well, because they've made that case purely only fit the grip.
Yeah,
I want it to fit my phone, and I'll loop it on my belt like an old man. It'll be awesome.
But it is I don't know. It's just a funky little device, and Mieke said, even if you're taking photos with your phone, you're seeing the world in a different way. And I really like that. That really resonates with me and it comes back to what we say, you don't say it so much because you're a Canon freak, but you say, we say it doesn't matter what camera you've got. Just get out and look at the light and hold a camera up and look through a viewfinder or on the screen and see the world differently, compose and frame and all of that sort of stuff. And this kind of elevates that for people that don't want to invest in a camera system, maybe a bit scared of the idea of a camera system, but this kind of enhances your user experience, I guess. And I know it's an expensive gadget.
I was going to say, what's super interesting is that is this, I don't know if I'm using this word correctly. I'm going to use it to try and sound smart. The dichotomy of saying, just get out and shoot with your phone, but also buy the $500 Leica grip.
Well, yeah,
for it, but I think it would actually make shooting with your phone for me feel more like photography, because at the moment it doesn't. It feels like using my phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
but don't forget, a lot of people will use their smartphone only, but have expansive photography catalogs of work.
Yeah,
because they just choose to use a phone because they think that the phone technology is good enough for them and the job that they do. And that's fine. That's great. We love it.
They are beautiful photos from a phone, especially for social sharing and stuff like that. If you don't own Alpine Light Gallery, a phone can create beautiful images. I think it's fun. I'm going to add this to the stage, Greg. I'm just going to pull yours down a little bit. Hang on.
I just want to have a quick look at some of these. You can be this cool, Justin. Oh, it's too late. Oh, no, you got it there. No, that's all right. No,
it's a different one. It was a different one. I'm going to show you. Oh, yeah, the vertical. Oh, it's for selfies too. Handy.
Oh, and look, when you place it down on your hand-knitted gloves.
Possum fur gloves.
Possum fur. Anyway, so there it is.
Hang on. So I'm just going to swap this over. Have a look at this. Fjorden. This isn't the same product.
No, but it is Leica, isn't it?
It is a Leica company. So I'm guessing this product evolved. They bought this company. I'm guessing this is my prediction. They bought this company. See, the grip here was more of a small lump on the camera with the buttons and stuff, and then they've evolved it to a more Leica style and put it out as a Leica product. Whereas this product is Fjorden and yeah, hang on.
It's a case, isn't it?
And no, it's mag.
Or is it their actual phone?
This is no, this is an iPhone, and this is a mag grip camera thing with some controls and a shutter button.
It's not pretty, is it?
It's the same. No, but it would fit in your pocket a lot better.
Yeah.
But it's a small grip, more like, like a Ricoh GR grip, like that. It's sort of, that's the style they've gone for here, like a compact camera grip. Whereas Leica have obviously added their actual. So yeah, you can see it here.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you might be right. Maybe it is a case.
I think it's a case.
No, MagSafe case, adhesive adapter. I don't know. But anyway, that's an interesting. That just came up when I was
done your research, have you?
Well, I was searching for the Leica one, so I can buy it, even though it's on back order. If I go,
well, it's only pre-order at the moment.
Yep, okay, pre-order.
If you go to B&H, it's pre-order.
Yeah, this is Leica Australia's store, and it says back order. So they probably had a million things for it. It's got a tripod socket. It's got a USB-C charger on the bottom. Got the front dial. I'm tempted to be an idiot and buy it and do a review on it or something. We'll see. Matt, this is the exact point. Matt, I've always thought it was amusing that manufacturers market how thin their phone is, and imagine how many millions of dollars they put into R&D to make it 0.3 of a mil thinner than the previous model or something, only to need to put a thick case around it so you don't smash it to smithereens.
That reminds me, one of the iPhone releases a few years ago, they talked about how thin it was, but they didn't take into account the bump for the camera housing, the lens housing.
Yeah.
They said the camera is, and they got a bit of flack for misleading people, because when you add, it's only like 2 mils, maybe 2.5, depending on which camera you've got. It doesn't make a huge difference, but they were so going for the thinnest camera on the market.
Yep.
But I agree. I think this is kind of tempting.
It's tempting.
It's reasonable. I mean, the other option is to get a Leica Instax camera, but
I'm going to try and get one, and we can both test it out.
All right,
I'm going to do it.
That'd be good.
I'm going to do it. What else? I think that's about it.
You're going to get the case too?
Jason wants an OM3 half case. I don't know if I can pull off an OM3 half case. I need to get my hands on that camera first before we can even. It probably would be simple because it doesn't have a grip.
Doesn't have a grip.
It would be simpler to do a half case, but it's not really our thing. Half cases. We're strap people. What else? Anything else before we?
No, the only other thing that popped up overnight with the news, I think it was from yesterday, a different brand camera strap maker and bag maker, Peak Design. They've released a brand new, they call it a micro clutch, and it comes with a base plate. They've got 2 plates. One's an eye plate, which is just a rectangular plate, and it has a very small
clutch. That's been out for a while.
No, their clutch has been out for DSLR, the bigger cameras. The micro clutch is now for the smaller OM3, X100.
Isn't it like
they've updated it.
2-finger they must have updated it. It's been out for a while. It's like
it's got a plate as well.
Yeah. Maybe they just did a refresh or something. Yeah,
I think they have.
Yeah, it's an interesting little product. I think Leica actually make like a 5 times more expensive version of that for their cameras or something. And I think that's how it evolved to Peak Design going, no one's doing this for all cameras, like a more generic one. Yeah, I've never used one. It just it's sort of they apparently just loops on 2 or 3 fingers.
Yeah, just those. If you've got small hands, you might fit your little finger in. It might be. I don't know. I personally might find it a bit restrictive. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah. Agree.
Anyway, that was just the other news. The other, new product that we haven't already covered. But yeah, really want to get our hands on an OM3. I think it's a really interesting product, and I think there's a lot to love about it. And let's hope that it makes other brands see the value in not just making these kind of organic blobs.
Classic styling.
Just add some classic styling to it. They've got this. They've all got a catalog of heritage designs. Nikon, Canon, Fuji, OM Systems, Panasonic. They've all got this catalog. They could, like what Nikon did with the ZF.
The ZF, which has been a very popular series of cameras. So, Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see Canon do it. I also don't blame them for not doing it. It's sort of like, because it's almost like, hey, we're not going to jump on that bandwagon. We're just going to focus on what we do. And I appreciate that as well.
Yeah,
But
I think there's value in that too.
It wouldn't surprise me if I saw him bring something out, but I've never heard any rumblings of it, in any rumors or anything like that. It's like they're just not no interest at all in that retro kind of thing. But
yeah.
Anyway,
very good. All right. Jolly good.
So
shall we call that a wrap?
I think we should call it a wrap. If you're still listening, don't forget. So Monday evening's Australian time, which is super late US time. If you're like a night owl in the US, get in the live chat and talk with us. I believe, I don't know if it's confirmed or not yet still, but I believe this Monday we'll have the Down South Photo Show guys on. Is that maybe happening? We're not sure yet, Greg?
Pretty sure that's confirmed. That is locked in.
It's locked in, so that'll be awesome. We'll just talk crap with them for an hour and dig into some photo news and reviews and all that sort of stuff. Find out about the trips and their workshops.
Yeah, and if you're a fan of Down South, you'd want to pay attention to that particular episode because we're working on a bit of a collaboration.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. That's a collaboration with Lucky Straps, Down South, and the Camera Life podcast. So stay tuned for that.
Bruce says, "Oh no, don't give Cam another platform." It's exactly what we want. Yeah. It's exactly what we want. We'll get Cam on. We'll see if we can get Jim on as well, or Grant or someone. And it should be good fun. And David says, maybe I'll have a 10 p.m. coffee and stay up for a strap. Maybe.
Maybe.
All right. Tell you this, David. If you end up in the comments on our next Monday evening show, we'll give away another strap. But not unless you're there. we won't.
So if it doesn't happen, everyone can blame David.
But also, I can't promise you'll get the strap. I can't rig it. It's got to still be a semi-random giveaway of some sort.
We have a very professional toolkit to decide who the winner is.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not sure that it works properly. But
I don't think I'm going to use the spinny wheel again. I think if we do it, I'll get the Down South Photo Boys to pick a random comment or something. I just won't tell them what's going on.
Yeah. Very good.
Philip says stock the fridge for the Down South team. And David says
David's in.
David's in. All right. Well, we'll see you there.
Nothing better.
Hopefully by then we will have hit 900 subscribers. I'm going to check it right now just in case. That could be cool. No, still $8.99. We'll have to wait till Monday. And from that, do we call it?
I think we're going to call it. So just a reminder, you've been listening and watching to the Camera Life podcast, episode 51. Check out the whole back catalogue of the previous 50 podcasts on YouTube or audio podcast channels. They're there too. And also keep an eye out on the channel for editor Seb has been pulling together some shorts with some key moments from past episodes. So stay, if you're subscribed, you're going to see those in your feed eventually. But look, on that note, we will see you, hopefully all of you, Monday evening Australian time or next Thursday morning once again. But look, be safe. Grab your camera. It doesn't matter what it is. Even if it is a smartphone, get out and shoot.
Get cracking into that 10,000 hours.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
That's right.
How many hours you reckon you're at? You'd be at 10,000 for sure.
I don't know. It depends if you count like editing and all that stuff. I'm not sure.
No, she kind of did. She said, with the air. Yeah.
I'd say because I'm well and truly past 10 years in. I'd say so, but I didn't keep count. So
I didn't either. I don't know that I'm there yet because I haven't worked professionally much.
My awards list is certainly not quite as long as Miike's. I think it totals. Mine's up at it's 0. Yes, 0 awards.
No, you and Jim got an award the other day, a couple of weeks ago, last year, in your matching pajamas.
Okay, I've got half an award.
I have to find that
which was a gag gift, but yeah. Anyway, all right.
Yeah, we're going to call it.
Catch you on the
Thanks,
next
everyone.
one, and
we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye. I really want one of those OM3s.